Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. Today was a good day. I met my friend for breakfast, and then when I came home, I polished my sword. And yes, that's exactly what it sounds like. Here's my sword, and I polished it. A replica of Excalibur from the 80s movie. It had a lot of fingerprints all over it, and somebody told me that that'll cause corrosion. So yeah, I had breakfast, and then I polished my sword. So, today I thought we'd check out one of these, one X-Men comic that is just can't be topped. This is X-Men 139, 50 cents, 1980. This is from the legendary Chris Claremont, John Byrne, Terry Austin run of comics. And as far as I'm concerned, you cannot get better comics than better superhero comics than this. This is just phenomenal. So just look at this cover. And we have Colossus and the Angel. That's the danger room over there. We have Wolverine and Nightcrawler with the polar bear, and we got Storm being grabbed by tentacles, and then we have Kitty Pryde. So this is often mocked, or not mocked, but often spoofed, often parodied, often just outright copied. Welcome to the X-Men, Kitty Pryde. Hope you survive the experience. Oh man, such a good comic. Look at this. Look at this corner box. This is just everything I want in comics. So let's look. Trans Am muscle cars. What is this? Model kits? Yeah, model kits. Trans Am. And let's go right to the indicia. X-Men Volume 1, number 139, 1980. It said so on the cover, so I guess there's no reason to go to the indicia, but that's what I do. So we got Chris Claremont writer. What can I say about Chris Claremont? He wrote the X-Men for like 20 years, and pretty much everything you know about the X-Men, especially if you're not reading comics, if you just watch the movies, comes from this guy. This guy did it all. He is, you cannot, there's Stan Lee and Chris Claremont. As far as I'm concerned, those are the two guys who made the X-Men what they are. And then we got John Byrne, plot and pencils. John Byrne ended up leaving the X-Men because he wanted more control over the story. And you can't have these two top talents, budding in the same area. Like when John Byrne was just doing the arts, he was fine, but now he wanted to have more control over where the storytelling was going, stuff like this. So this is like the beginning of the end of this run. And Terry Austin, oh my God, Terry Austin, he does the inking. I talk about, I say things like this, but I just realized I maybe it's time to talk about what the inking does. John Byrne will do the layouts and the sketches, so everything will be in pencil. And then the inker comes in and goes over all the lines in ink and then adds like the dark patches and gives everything depth. They do this a lot of times, like John Byrne will do his own inking. He did a lot of his own inking when he did the Fantastic Four, which is where he left this comic and then took over the Fantastic Four to make what a great run that was. But this is quicker. The artist could pencil a book and give it to the inker, and they could do a comic book quicker. And John Byrne, phenomenal artist, and when he inks himself, it's great. But when Terry Austin inks him, it's just so much better. So if you can't get Terry Austin to ink John Byrne, I want John Byrne to ink John Byrne. And I did the X-Men annual with Archon, and that was George Perez with Terry Austin. Just so good. Tom Orzewski letter, I'm sure I said that wrong. Glynis Wynn, who is the wife of Len Wein, who created the new X-Men, also the Swamp Thing. Louise Jones, this is she ended up marrying Walter Simonson, and she became Louise Simonson, and then everybody called her Wheezy. She is super influential in the X-Men. She was the editor of the X-Men run. At this point, the X-Men were popular, but they weren't the gangbusters phenomenon that we all know. She was the editor. She was basically created the X-Men franchise. You have Chris Claremont writing, John Byrne doing the pencils, and Terry Austin doing the inks. But she's the dark horse over here. She's the unsung hero. She did the editorial guidance that launched the X-Men from just, comic book that was, Len Wein took it from a comic book that was basically canceled to a successful comic. Chris Claremont boosted it into a sales giant, and then under Louise Jones, who later became Louise Simonson, she turned it into a franchise. then we have the X Factor, then we have the New Mutants and all this stuff. And she was the boss. She was in charge. And then there was Jim Shooter, who was in charge of the company. So he hired Louise Jones, and Louise Jones hired everybody else. That's the way it worked at Marvel. It was this is just boom. I said it under the Fantastic Four 52 that this was the A team. This is the X-Men A team. My God, this is the X-Men A team. I don't think it's ever been surpassed than this. So good, so good. And I talk about Jim Shooter so much. He, to me, Stan Lee was the the guy who founded and created all the Marvel stuff, and then I think Jim Shooter polished the sword. Stan Lee forged the sword. Jim Shooter polished and tempered that sword and made it the best thing, like my Excalibur blade that I love so much. I'm gonna knight myself later and probably cut my ears off. But let's get back to the comics. So here we have Warren Worthington III, the Angel. Look at this splash page. And a splash page. A splash page is usually, but not always, the first page of a comic, and it's usually not always one panel. But a splash page is typically one panel, first page. Look at that. So good. You don't need the background. You just got this figure of Warren Worthington flying, and then these batons, rods being fired from basically like a rod howitzer. Look at that. So cool. And he is so adept at flying that he's just avoiding everything. And then this was a thing that you don't see anymore. Cyclops, Storm, Nightcrawler, Wolverine, Colossus, Children of the Atom, students of Charles Xavier, mutants, feared and hated by the world they are sworn to protect. They are the strangest team of all, the Uncanny X-Men. I think they got rid of this because the X-Men lineup changed like on a day-to-day basis. So, and then look at this. This is called a two-page spread. Why? Because one page, two page come to form one picture that spreads the entire book. So cool. See, here we have the X-Men in the Danger Room. Look at Colossus just fighting that robot. Oh, I love this. If you could see me, I got a big smile on my face. There's Storm, just so cool, flying around. Now, one thing even as a kid, it's supposed to be that she doesn't really fly. She summons winds, and the winds blow into her cape and propel her. But I guess around this point, they're just changing it to she could fly, because you used to see the winds pushing everything else. Because if the winds are strong enough to push, I don't know how much she weighs, 120, 130 pounds, woman with this big leather cape. So we'll say 150 pounds to push her around and stuff like that. The wind's got to be pretty strong, especially a focused wind. But you don't see any evidence of that. So around this point, I'm going to just call it she has the power of flight rather than the power to glide that she used to have. And there we have a guy who's all about the power of flight. If you follow his trajectory, he would have passed through this wind and it would have messed him up. But there's no evidence of that. And then there's Nightcrawler. Unfortunately, Nightcrawler suffers through the fold. This is Wolverine in his costume. Dave Cockrum, who originally took over the X-Men with the new X-Men. So we had Len Wein, Dave Cockrum. And Dave Cockrum designed all of these costumes. Just phenomenal costumes, except for Wolverine. We'll get back to that. Dave Cockrum, underrated designer. Great artist, underrated designer. Look at his Legion of Superheroes. If whether you like the names or not, I'm not going to argue with you if you don't like the names of Lightning Lad and stuff like that. But you will have to admit that the designs of the costumes is awesome. Simple yet elegant. That's what you need for superhero costumes. Simple and elegant. That's why I don't like the new Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers costume. It looks like a military uniform, not a superhero costume. But anyway, back to Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler was Dave Cockrum's favorite. He was originally created to be in DC Comics, the Legion of Superheroes, but for whatever reason he didn't make it in, so Dave Cockrum brought him over and put him in the X-Men, and that's so great because I couldn't imagine Nightcrawler being in anything other than the X-Men. He's become an integral part of the X-Men as far as I'm concerned. But when John Byrne took over, and Dave Cockrum Nightcrawler was Dave Cockrum's favorite. I don't know if I said that. Sometimes I ramble. But when John Byrne took over, Wolverine was his favorite. And you could see there was a lot of cool, a lot of cool shots and story thing. We'll give it to Nightcrawler. And then Wolverine became the darling of the artist. And one of the things, at this point, I think John Byrne knew he was leaving. I don't know if he had a contract and he had to wait, or in his head he decided that he was leaving. But one of the things he wanted to do is he wanted to change his favorite character. So John Byrne designed this costume and gave it to Wolverine right before leaving because he wanted to leave his mark on his favorite costume. It's pretty cool. As long as you got the face wings, that's Wolverine. I don't know. This is cool because John Byrne will make any costume look cool. George Perez will make any costume look cool. George Perez might not design a cool costume, but he will make an existing cool costume and make it look cool. And here we have Charlie just hanging out in the control room of the danger room, watching everything. And here we have Kitty Pryde. This is Catherine Pryde, better known as Kitty Pryde. And at this point, she doesn't have a superhero name yet. And this is the costume that the original X-Men wore. So she didn't, Charles Xavier, Xavier was missing from this team for a while. That he thought that they were dead. Then he went off and lived with the Leandra. So he got reunited to the team, and he's still playing like strict by the book at this point. And the adult members of the X-Men don't particularly care for this. He's used to it. Cyclops is used to it. But Wolverine and Charlie were butting heads and fighting. So he's kind of a stickler. There's the word I was looking for. So she's in the X-Men. She doesn't get to have a cool individual costume yet, but it is kind of individual because nobody else is wearing it. But that's besides the point. So she's wearing the original X-Men costume. Why? Because she's brand new, untrained. You didn't get the right to wear an individual costume. So she's just watching this like, what is going on? She was only recruited a couple of issues earlier, and now other stuff happened, and now she's in the X-Men team seeing what's going on for the first time. And here we go. He's falling into a vat of flame. Wolverine pulls everything out, catches Nightcrawler. How fast would he have to be going to do all that? But he's a superhero. And then Wolverine bamfs away. Yeah, he goes, and then they got to remind you stuff like this because you can't smell anything. But Wolverine's complaining about the stench. It smells like brimstone and sulfur. So whenever Nightcrawler teleports, it makes the sound of bamf, and that sound is supposed to be him disappearing. So and then like when he disappears, this smoke comes from wherever he goes, and then like it collapses like a mushroom cloud because the air, rushes in to fill up that spot. Poof, and it makes fart smell. There you go. There's no other way to say it. So this fart smoke comes out. Bamf. And I never said I was above childish humor. You say the word fart. I'm giggling. Sorry, guys. And there's Nightcrawler. There's Colossus just tossing this robot around. I love this sleek, robotic look of Colossus. And just like me, again, stupid kid. He used to describe it as organic, and I don't know where I got this in my head, but I thought the word organic meant hot. I'm dumb. So I always thought he turned into hot steel. There you go. I don't know. So I always thought like you couldn't touch him or whatever. Just stupid kid. And then so Nightcrawler teleports. Colossus throws the robot. Didn't realize that Nightcrawler was teleporting there. What? So Storm whisks Nightcrawler to safety and then gets hit by the tentacles. Just so cool. Just so cool. Look at that drawing. John Byrne really has this thing with like roundness. Like he puts like, so that's why I think his women always look so good, because they got this like nice roundness to them. Just I don't know. Just so cool. Just so cool. So she drops Nightcrawler. So Nightcrawler's been the boob in this little training session. You can't catch a break. He's falling, which is not always the case, and now he's falling into Colossus's hands. And I like this. She turns backwards and summons like a miniature rainstorm into that messes up the circuits, and then she falls down. And Nightcrawler, look at this. He goes, Professor Wolverine, call me Professor X or Professor Xavier even, but if you must, Charles, but not Charlie. Is that understood? Sure, Chuck. So I got to admit, look at it. I'm beginning to think Charlie made the right decision when he named you team leader after Cyclops left. Cyclops left to the issue right before this. Marvel girl Jean Grey died. So Cyclops took a leave of absence, and that's why the Angel is taking his place, because Xavier wanted one of the original X-Men to be, because Xavier went on like one mission with these guys and it ended up in disaster, and then the team kind of disappeared. So Xavier is he wants an original, fully trained member to oversee his X-Men, because, you know, at this point Xavier was kind of a control freak. Something that they kind of led up on. He had a lot different personality back then. I actively did not like Xavier back then. I thought he was a jerk, and that's what they were playing up to. So I love this. After Charlie named you team leader, and then he comes rolling out, Wolverine, please call me Professor X, Professor Xavier, or even, if you must, Charles, but not Charlie. Is that understood? Sure, Chuck. And then, is it safe to commit? So she's slinking in. She's all nervous. I know what you're going to say, Professor. My dumb moves nearly got Nightcrawler badly hurt or worse. I'm sorry, it won't happen again. And we're going into ads over here. Look at this. The Charles Atlas ad. That wonderful Hero of the Beach ad that is now reduced to this. Not the best for the Charles Atlas ad. Here we got the Hulk Masterpiece Theater ad where they're, you know, doing subscriptions. What a great run. These were all great. Not a bad comic in the bunch. Not a bad comic in the bunch. Spider Super Stories. I talk about that all the time. They disappeared. It was Electric Company sponsored Spider-Man, and I know nobody borrowed them because they're awful. So I don't know what happened. I had a full run of them, and they disappeared. So Nightcrawler's sure it will, Flyboy. You've been doing solo superhero act lately. When you're so here he is just smoking. And Xavier's always telling him don't smoke in the danger. So he's just actively pushing Xavier's buttons. You know, at this time, this was the Wolverine that I remember. Just a rogue, not listening to orders. You know, a hotshot, brash. He was the Hawkeye of the group. You know, every Marvel team had the headstrong, brash guy who won't follow orders. In the Fantastic Four, it was Johnny Storm. In the X-Men, it was Wolverine. In the Avengers, it was Hawkeye. You know, not Mopai, Hawkeye. And it was just, now that I think about it, it's like a trope, but you know, it worked. Everybody loves the wild one. I ain't listening to orders. And so of course him and Xavier were always button heads. He was always button heads with Cyclops, and now he's button heads with Xavier. So here you go, Nightcrawler. He goes, did someone mention my name? So he comes swinging in with lemonade. Yikes. And this is something I thought was such a good characterization. Listen to this. I don't like to read all the word balloons, but this one I'm going to read. See, this is crazy. Each time I see Nightcrawler, I flinch. I can't seem to help myself. I want to like him, but he looks so different. He gives me the creeps. An honest human reaction. She's a 14-year-old girl. She never saw Nightcrawler before. Remember, the X-Men weren't like glory hounds and stuff like that. I hesitate to say that they're not like a everyday on the news kind of super team, you know, kind of in the background super team, avoiding the spotlight. And she's not used to that in real life. That freaks her out. And then listen to his thoughts. Kitty's hiding her feelings well. I know I still make her nervous. I've tried to break the ice between us, but so far nothing's worked. I'll simply have to keep trying. I like her too much to give up. I love that. And his class is turning human, and her power turns off, her eyeballs come back. So they all have some sort of like transformation. Kind of cool. He's like, nice move, pal, except I don't drink lemonade. That must be why I brought you a beer. Because Wolverine's cool, and cool guys drink beer. Cool guys only drink beer. They never drink lemonade. Which I thought was so stupid, even as a kid. I was just like, calm down, Wolverine. Tone it down. And then, what's the matter, Kitty? You look, I don't know, it's this danger. So, she also has a crush on Colossus. And she's acting like a 14-year-old girl. And before you think it's freaky, he's only 18, 19 years old. He's just a giant. So the age gap isn't that bad. I don't know. He's 18 to 14. Yeah, I guess 14's too young. So now he's talking about what we're going to do, you know, how we're going to do everything. And it's time for your session. And Storm and Kitty, they developed like a relationship, almost like a surrogate mother-daughter relationship. Because at this point, and I don't know what's going on now in comics, but at this point, Kitty's parents were alive and well. She doesn't have that tragic family thing that all superheroes seem to go through. She has a mother, she has a father. They're very nice people. They're loving. So they kind of, her parents didn't want her to join the team, but then Jean Grey mind messed with her father and got them to okay her to join the group. So I thought that was shady. And Xavier looked surprised. But at the time, Jean Grey was under the control of Mastermind from the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. He was influencing her mind, and that's what caused her, one of the things that caused her to turn into Dark Phoenix, and ultimately to her death. So you could forgive Jean Grey because it was wrong. We all knew it was wrong, but he never fixed it. I never heard him say, like, I went back and repaired the damage, or told Kitty, you can't join the team because your father gave us permission under, duress, is that the word? Or mind control, or the influence of a telepath. So, I don't know. Does he know? There's a lot of moral ethic problems I have with this guy. He's not one of my favorite characters. Not the civil rights icon that he's supposed to be when you're doing all this unethical stuff. And someday I'll do my video. I got to do some research and get the actual issues out. But I got to give my argument that the X-Men deserve persecution because of all the horrible things that they do. And I'm sure since I quit reading the X-Men, it's only gotten worse. So here he is. He's arguing. He wants to go on. And he's the Han Solo. He's got to go to Canada and clear his name because Alpha Flight came and tried to take him away because he quit a Canadian secret organization to join the X-Men, and the Canadian secret organization, every once in a while, they'll send federal agents to come and take him. That's what Alpha Flight was, Canadian federal agents to take him. So he's like, I'm speaking of leave of absences, I got to go clear my name. And Xavier's like, yeah, please do. We don't need that anymore. So he goes, want to play chaperone, keep me out of trouble? So here Wolverine's going to Canada, and he's like, keep me company. And he's like, yeah, why not? Sounds like fun. And Wolverine at this point, Nightcrawler at this point was all happy-go-lucky and swashbuckling, but inside he was hurting. Just a juxtaposition. Inside he was suffering. It really bothered him when Kitty didn't like him and stuff like that. So I just like that. I just think it's a good keep up, stiff upper lip kind of. It's a good strong character kind of thing. So here you go. He goes, I'll make the necessary. Meantime, I got a surprise for you, Sprite. Sprite. That's right. That was her code name, Sprite. That was Kitty Pryde's first code name, Sprite. And now, Storm. Oh, and I didn't finish my thought. I apologize. They developed like a mother-daughter kind of like relationship, which I thought was kind of odd considering her mother was only 20 minutes by subway away. She could go visit her mom. So, I don't know. And she's Storm is even though she's tall, and what's the word, like stately is a good description. She's supposed to be only like 21, 22. So she's not that much older, but I guess when you're 14 years old, a 21, 22-year-old, 6'2" glamorous woman like Storm would be like a mother. But they should have more of like a big sister relationship. But what do I know? So what's going on? They're taking her to this place. Nobody's looking. And this is another thing. As far as me, as far as I knew, she was the first Jewish superhero. She had Star David. They made no bones about it. This is kind of weird to notice too, but they wanted her to be plain looking and flat chested. And that was like part of jokes for a while. But also keep in mind, she's 14 years old. There's room for her character to develop, body to develop later. But that was one of the things that she would comment on, like when she would see like Storm and everything like that. Like, when I grow up, will I look like that? And I thought that was kind of cool character development. So she's phasing through. That's her power. This was her only power at the time. She could phase through walls. And I've said it a million times. Power creep happens. What is power creep? Power creep is characters get more powerful over time. Okay, I just realized I'm at 24 minutes, so I'm gonna go a couple more. I'll go to a couple more minutes, and then I'll break this into two because this is a comic I really want to give the time to. So she opens the door because they had to show off her abilities because she never got to do anything cool, and they're going upstairs. Dance studio. She was in a dance class. So here's Xavier trying to do the right thing and give her something that would be of interest to her. So they're funding for her to go through a dance class. And this is Stevie Hunter. You know what? I'm mad that I zoomed in on the name because I wanted to impress everybody that I remembered her name. But now nobody's going to believe me because I said it after I zoomed in. And that's Stevie Hunter. And that's going to be her dance instructor. And she's like all excited. And that's pretty cool for Xavier. And what is this? Oh, okay. So now this is Wolverine going to Ottawa, capital of Canada. It's a nice Canadian suburb. And this is Heather Douglas Hudson, I think. Her maiden name was Douglas, and now she's Heather Hudson. She's married to Mac Hudson, who is Vindicator, who later changes his name to Guardian, leader of Alpha Flight. And I just love this. She's got a bug. This is obviously like some photo reference that, and John Byrne grew up in I think John Byrne grew up in Calgary, but he's drawing really, really nice backgrounds, really human backgrounds. I wouldn't be surprised if this was a photo reference of something that he grew up in. And look at these ads. Anybody know why Fat Albert's not on TV anymore? Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids. It's kind of like nobody talks about Bill Cosby and the Cosby Kids. I wonder why. I don't know why. Did anybody know why? Could somebody explain to me? And here she comes in. Look at this house. This is that's one thing John Byrne always talked about. Is I think his wife had something to do with fashion, or she was into fashion, or she busted his chops about fashion. I don't know, but I know that he credited his now ex-wife, but at the time his wife, that he wanted to draw women's clothes more realistic. So, she used to, encourage him to do. And then I think he used photo references or real places to draw apartments and cityscapes and stuff like that. And here, how long you been? She's like, Logan. Oh my God, it's good to see you. So, and now, what's your name? She goes, Wolverine. She called you Logan. Yep. Is that your name? You never told us. You never asked. See, here it is. The first appearance of the name Logan. Up until now, he was Wolverine. Man of mystery. He never had, go back to his first appearance. This is 39 issues. It's X-Men 94, 40, 45, 40, 46 issues. He never was referred to as Logan. Here it is, first appearance of Logan. And now she's introduced him to Nightcrawler. And remember, Nightcrawler is suffering in silence. So here he is being the gallant swashbuckler. He modeled himself after like Errol Flynn at this point. Dashing pirate. Inside he's hurting. And I just love that. I don't know. I find that to be heroic. He's suffering by the way he looks. He doesn't like his appearance. People flinch at him. But, what the tears of a clown, if you remember that song. So here she's like, Night Creeper, Nightcrawler. And he's talking. He needs to clear everything up between what happened to him and the Canadian government. And this is just such good character building. And this is what I like about this. It's all happening through the characters, through this past stories, origin stories, all tied together. It's just so good. Look at that. Look at the great coloring. Glynis went over here. And this is Vindicator, leader of Alpha Flight. Mac, that's Heather's husband. And if you saw the I forget which Wolverine, one of the Wolverine solo movies, that he was running around through the woods crazy, like naked, and the family took him in. In the comic books, it was Heather and Mac found him while they were up, camping, getting away either on vacation or the honeymoon or something like that. And they called him Logan because he didn't remember his name, and they nursed him back to health from the wild, crazy man running around in the woods naked. So he has like a bond with James, Mac, Hudson, and Heather. So there you go. And this is Michael Two Youngman and Anna Mackenzie. So this is Shaman and why can't I remember her name? Snowbird. This is all the Alpha Flight team. So they're going in and they're hunting the Wendigo, right? Yes. Oh yes, they're hunting the Wendigo. The next issue is, this issue is good. The issue before this is good. Oh, it's so good. And here they transform. He magical Indian, technological, electromagnetic superhero, and Snowbird. She's a shape changer. So she's a shape changer who's mother is the Nelvana, mother, goddess of the Northern Lights. And Nelvana was the first Canadian superhero, first Canadian female superhero comic. Some guy, I forget who it was, I forget his name, but he created Nelvana, made her up whole cloth, and made this mythology about her. So she was supposed to be like the Canadian Wonder Woman. I've got a collection of it, a hardcover collection of it upstairs. I'll break it out. So Snowbird is the daughter of this, made up Canadian goddess. It's just like such a meta comic book thing. And I think Nelvana is a public domain, so nobody's going to get mad. So she's bound by the realm of her mother, the goddess, and she's created to create this the fight the great beast. I got to read that Nelvana. Maybe the great beasts are in there too. But she could only transform into animals that are native to like Canadian regions, so like polar bears and stuff like that. And now he's worried about it because when she transforms into animals, she not just takes their shape, but she takes their like personalities and traits. So she's dangerous when she's a polar bear. Right now she's in total control, but I think the longer she stays in the form and the more that she does, she kind of loses her will into the animal form. And you'll see that later on. And here he goes, they being all cool, Nightcrawler, Wolverine, and pops his claws, he puts on his force field, and then good thing Nightcrawler's there because he's like, listen, we're not here to fight, we're here to solve everything, remember? And then I love this. I love this. The polar bear comes in. He's a superhero, but that's got to scare you, huh? And she transforms. I didn't mean to startle you, X-Man. And look at this face, Wolverine. I love it. He's laughing, and here they are. He's like, Dunk, how does she do it? So that kind of stuff I love. You're an X-Men who looks like a demon, who teleports and sticks to walls. And you still have wonder, how does she turn into polar bears? How does she sneak up on people? I just love that. Nothing is taken for granted. So now he's talking about what's going on with the Wendigo. And the Wendigo, this is the first time I heard about the Wendigo in this comic. I know I said I was going to stop, but I guess I'm going on. I never heard about the Wendigo. This is the first time in this comic. It's supposedly like a real thing, like the Native Americans, like it was like one of those morality ethic legends that like don't commit cannibalism, because if you do, you'll transform into the Wendigo. And that was just, I guess, an extra layer of societal protection, and that created this legendary monster. And the Wendigo lives in the cold realms, and I hate to be gross, but I bet you that did happen in wilderness places like in the Arctic, that like, okay, we're going to have to eat somebody. We all know about the Donner Party, so we know it happened in America. So here's the Wendigo. If you commit cannibalism, you're cursed to become the Wendigo. And it's like this Hulk. And this, in Marvel's version, is this, here we go, he's this big, abominable-tailed snowman, kind of cool-looking monster, who later on we find out it's one of the 7 great beasts that Nelvana was sworn to protect. And here, in the very first appearance of Wolverine, which I showcased that comic, well, he was in one panel in Hulk 180, but 181 is the first time we actually see him moving around. This is Wolverine in his original costume, and we knew nothing. And this is by Len Wein, and the artist was it? I don't think it was Dave Cockrum. I forget now. But John Romita did the designs. And Hulk, Wolverine fought and beat Wendigo. And that was the very first appearance of Wolverine. That was Hulk 181. I did a showcase on that. And now they're recapping this. The fight. And then when they were done, had to go fight the Hulk. So now they're fighting. And then this woman did some whammy on both of them and took the curse of Wendigo from her brother. And unbeknownst to her, her lover took the curse upon himself because he loved her so much. So he's not in the comic, he's not in this panel, but her lover took the curse upon himself so that her brother could be free, because that's how much he loved her. So what is that, the gift of the Magi? You got what you wanted, but you lost your lover. So now they go, we got to go get the Wolverine. We got to go get the Wendigo. Like, we'll get something out of the car, I'll get it. Boom. She goes, Nightcrawler, how does he do that? just some good storytelling. So I like the emphasizing the shortness. Wolverine is supposed to be borderline midget. That's something that we kind of forget. He's tiny little scrapper. Look at the face, so good, so good. And here we have Reed Richards fighting. He's super intelligent. He knows how to properly defeat a villain. Twinkies. You use Twinkies. Not these stinking fruit pies. No way. And I will tell you, if you come at me with the sword, but you have Twinkies, it doesn't matter if I also have a sword, you're winning, because Twinkies trump sword. Oh, and here's the letters page, X-Mail. So, John Byrne knew that we were doing something special the moment we started doing Dark. So this is reactions to Dark Phoenix. Great, and I just like looking at the name. Terry Black, Eric Walters, guy wrote a poem. You know, April Curry. Just so good. Just so good. All right. Look at that page. Excellent. Look at that. Look at that. So here we have Wolverine. Wolverine. What is wrong with my brain? Here we have Nightcrawler going back to his car, you know, getting stuff from a rental.